Alright, let's see if we're up. See if people can hear me. See what's going on here. Hello. Look at me, I'm Taco Bill. Hopefully somebody will be in the stream soon. This still says 0. I don't know what's going on here. That says live. If anybody comes into the room, please let me know if you can hear me. That would be great, thanks. Hey, there's Dan. Alright, excellent. Alright, so hello everybody. I am Bill Kafer, aka Taco Bill, bringing you some action here. Top 16 OCS between Joe Olson and Steve Baroni. Looks like we got Joe here playing Old Allies, choosing to play light side first, versus Steve playing That Thing's Operational. Two players here, both very good, obviously qualified for the top 16 several years now. I think Joe was the 6th seed coming in, maybe the 7th seed. They were all kind of bunched in the middle there. I ended up picking Steve. Should be a fun match. We're going to do this game here, probably take a break. I'm going to try to pull in a couple people offered to stream with me. I'll see if I can get that working or not. Maybe Mr. Silverglen, Justin Branch, or maybe Mr. Troop 1023 himself, Mike Kessling, fellow top 8 OCSer. This is going to be an interesting matchup. I don't know that... I feel like Joe is probably kind of prepared for TTO. It feels like something that Steve could always play. I looked briefly at a couple lists. It looked like... Oh god, that's the wrong thing I want to do. It looked like a couple of the lists I saw from Worlds did have the relatively unprotected in the deck. Old Ally is obviously able to reduce that to 1 anyway if it's able to maintain that presence at the 2 Jakku sites, or the 2 Jakku locations, excuse me. Looks pretty standard start from Joe. You got a Brave Resistance, you got Strike Blending, you got Walkling, so you'll be able to pull Leia, send him back, grab anybody you want. Probably Steve's deck a little lighter on ground. He went with the combat response start there over IAO. Definitely the one I prefer. He's got Gergerod right away to the site. We'll see how fast he can get set up versus Joe here. One of the things I like about Old Allies is you are able to put a little pressure on them early. So in this case, if you can get TTO set up on turn 2 and maybe get some damage on turn 3, that might be before Joe is able to fully set up. Could be a little rough on him. And then also those extra destinies at the system. If you're able to cancel the Rebel Leadership, grab the Rebel Leadership, maybe you can get through a couple extra destinies. Maybe you can get super laser shot on a couple ships. So it'll be an interesting game. There's the first sector and Endor shield. Obviously both players pulling their grabber as well. Steve grabbing secret plans. I've got a message from someone. Oh, Jared let me do giveaways. I'll wait for some dead time for some giveaways. Am I able to see the PC Twitch chat? I don't think I can. Thought I was going to be able to. I was going to try to get in on that too. Alright, Grand Admiral Thrawn Virtual, pulled by Steve with his first Endor shield pull, and then he's just going to draw a couple cards here. Entirely possible that there's a sector in the force pile. That's one of the things you want to watch out for with TTO, is where your sectors are. You'll probably play a force push and maybe a point man also, just so you can dig something out if you need to, or if your Gergerod gets killed. Here's short range. We'll see what he grabs here. My money's on like Saber 1. Maybe Vader's custom tie. Vader's shuttle, one of the two. I appreciate you, Mike Turner. I also like my hat. If anybody didn't see at Worlds, I think I was wearing this on the Friday. Big fan of the hat. James in the chat letting you know to fill out your survey by November 7th. I believe that's next week, maybe the Sunday after. Let's make sure you get that in, get your voice to the PC, be heard. Alright, he did grab Vader's custom tie, so that's a good one. Joe on his first turn getting 7 force here. I expect a pretty normal first turn from Joe. You know, these are your standard pull General Calrissian, pull Rey with the 2-0, get him on the Falcon, fly up. It's a little more risky here, just because Steve already has, you know, already has Vader's custom tie, is obviously running multiple ships. I will preface anything I say about Old Allies by saying I am absolutely not an Old Allies player. I've just never been able to play it well for whatever reason. So I'll welcome all criticism of anything I say. Joe here putting Leia back to grab Lorsan Tekka with a Brave Resistance. There is General Calrissian. Here comes Rey from reserve deck to the 2-0. Rey moves over, Rey's going to get in. Obviously pulled a card out of use pile. Ship will fly up. Joe saves one, draws none. Back to Steve's turn. He's going to pull a sector here first. This is why I will probably never be asked to do commentary. That is true of me with every deck. It's also true of me with every deck, so sometimes you get lucky. I've gotten lucky a couple times this year. Steve activates 10. There's a second sector. And a third sector. See if TTO's in there or not. Looks like it is. There is that thing's operational. So in this matchup, do you try to blow up the Death Star with the Falcon or too risky? I don't think you try to do it with the Falcon. I don't know what other space Joe's going to be running. I can pull up a couple of Old Allies lists, but I don't even know when the last one was. Typically it'll run, what, either Rogue One or a Corvette with Radis. Let's see if any were played at Worlds or not. guess from Mike Kessling. Let's look at that. Yeah, so he was running Obian Radiant 7, a Corvette, and Gold Leader in Gold 1. I'd say you're typically not going to blow up the Death Star in this matchup. Not with that cast of ships there. Your objective is able to limit the damage to 1 a turn anyway, so if you can fight in space, that's probably just as good. Alright, so Steve set up the custom tie at Endor with Darth Vader V. Pretty sure it's Darth Vader V. That would make the most sense. Ozzel came down to give a little buffer for Jerjerrod. And he did not move the Death Star to Jakku. So drawing a couple cards here. Alright, so Joe here on turn 2, activating 10. Steve did pull Battle Order, and Joe opting not to drain. Joe pulling out the Tuano Village. We'll probably flip here, so he's got Rose down to the shipyard. Lor San Tekka to the village, that'll flip. Yeah, chat lamenting that it is not the AI Lor San Tekka, which was given away for, I believe, the August OCS. Very good looking card. So Lor San Tekka came down, drew a card. Hera on the Falcon as well. Pretty much always going to add a Destiny here. Combined fleet action comes down, so 1 Destiny on the ground as well. Joe can start pulling some vehicles next turn. Probably see him consolidate, move Rose over to the village, where Lor San Tekka retains his +4 power. So that's a pretty good setup for Joe, right? Because he can reduce that drain of 2 at Endor down to 1 this turn. He's pretty solid in space between Calrissian, Hera, and Rey. Potentially like punch it or something. The only thing he's really missing here is either Radis, or if there's like an there probably has an Akbar for a leadership. So we'll see what Steve decides to do here. He's gonna activate 14 and then look for a sector or super laser, which he doesn't find. So giving up a verify here, but I think you have to in a combat response deck. You got to know what you're able to find. Alright, so instead of that, Steve is going to drop Marrow as Saber here. And Grand Admiral Thrawn Virtual, which is going to suspend combined fleet action. Yeah, so Joe went a little light on the ground. Thinking maybe Steve doesn't have any of the ground pieces yet, still early. Mara, obviously going to hurt. I think you swing, unless there's like immunity to attrition, I'm not remembering. I think you just swing at Rose and draw Destiny and kill Lor San Tekka, right? Because that way, even if he -2s, you're still probably going to hit Rose. Oh. I think Steve learning that just now also, Joker King. Yeah, so that's Mara Jade the Emperor's Hand, which, sure. A fine card. Probably not the one he wanted, though. So instead of swinging, he's going to try to set for stun. Lore Santeka, but misses. He will command to add a Battle Destiny. So what, he's got to clear, he's got to do 8 and 2 Destinies to clear both? Yeah, that could have been real bad for Joe. If this was EPP Mara and he was able to swing it, I don't know, either of them, and Sepher stun the other one. So maybe Sepher stun Lord Santeka, swing at Rose, he would have been pretty big here. Instead, he's still probably going to clear, probably only going to lose one character. And I think you lose Mara. I mean, Mara's immune though, so I don't know. Joe opting not to grab Imperial Command here. I think that's kind of interesting. I wonder what he's waiting for. Probably short range fighters, just so you can you're able to leadership later in the game. So Steve's Destinies, he's got a 6. That's a good start. Joe will subtract 2. So that's a 4. Needs to draw a 2 here to clear everything. Draws a 3. So that should clear all of Joe. Joe also now realizing that it's non-V Mara. This always makes me wonder how, I mean, maybe not this case where, like, we're not going to put a non-V Mara into a physical deck, but, like, I had this happen with my game against Matt Harrison Trainer last night where he laughed at something and I didn't know what was going on, and then I realized it later, and I said, oh, okay. So I wonder how often this happens in actual, like, paper play. So Steve's got to lose 4 attrition here. Mara goes. She did her job. She stood there and provided 4 power. Lore Santeka and Rose going to go for Joe. That will flip Joe back. Thrawn stands alone. Joker King in chat says there's a big fear of counter beat here. I mean, if he's got, like, Chewie with the bowcaster and a solo, that seems pretty bad. He's not able to pull vehicles, so I'm not as worried about, Poe and a vehicle drawing 2 Destiny. And Command didn't get grabbed, so he can still play Command either to limit or add, depending on what gets dropped. Joe draws his last card with Rey also. Alright, so Joe getting 12 this turn, pulling out the Starship Graveyard here. Yeah, James, I've made the same mistake with Mara. I usually try to run at least one test game with myself, just to make sure all decks work. Alright, so here's a Brave Resistance. Putting Finn back to grab Poe Dameron, so maybe that vehicle is in Joe's hand. There's Chewie. There is Dash in Rogue 12. So, okay, so all of the above is coming down. So Chewie, Dash in Rogue 12, Poe Dameron piloting. So 14 power, 2 Destiny, and effectively a lightsaber swing against Grand Admiral Thrawn here. Chewie will shoot at Thrawn. Draws a 4. I'm pretty sure there's no zeros left, so that'll hit. 4-1. Slight pause here in the game. Maybe Steve has Dark Time or Joe has Jedi Lev. But Thrawn's hit. Forfeit 0. Okay, Steve conceded. And concedes the match. Alright. Well, that was a quick one. Yeah, I guess Steve didn't have anything here. As far as like another command or a GIC or anything like that, so that's a quick one. Looks like Joe will move on. Actually moves on to face me, so we'll schedule that at some point. I think this was the only game scheduled for today, so I think the next game is going to be at 6 a.m. Eastern Time tomorrow morning. That is what? Several hours from now. 16 hours from now. A little under 16 hours from now. Yeah, that'll be 6 in the morning. I think James said he's covering Game 1 and Dan's going to cover Game 2. That's between Eric Spagsma and Justin Desai. And then we got, somewhere in the chat here, we've got a Sunday match between Brad Kipple and Zimowit. I'll scroll all the way up is what I should do. That one is October 30th at 3 p.m. and that'll finish the round for us. Oh, Jared, not James. Okay. The token. Well, no, the token is going to be Mara Jade, the Emperor's Hand. That's a great token. That's non-V, because that's only the title of a non-V card. Alright. Yeah, well, thank you guys for hanging out with me for a little bit. And I'm going to jump in and play some games for some silly decks for some sweet AIs. Have a good one, guys.